All right. Welcome, everybody, to yet again another Civil Chat, the first of the year. Glad to see y'all. Looks a little low on attendance, but I'm assuming that's just people are still are trying to
Oh,
probably trying to catch up from their time off over the holidays.
it did dawn on me too, because it did expire on the dates at the end of last year. I wonder if people didn't re-register for it.
That could be. Yeah, that definitely could be. So yeah, make sure you reach out to your friends and family and let them know about Civil Chat. Um, I don't get any payment from this. It's just something we like to do. So yeah, reach out to everybody. Let them know about it.
I don't know, Brian. You got a new year and you got a new wall behind you. There's like, it's
I
not
know,
just the
right?
wall, there's a bookcase as well. It seems weird.
Crazy, right? I got bookcase, I have a window, I have a door. So
They
the
gave
person
you a
that was
way
in this
out?
office left, and so I took it over. So yeah, yeah, I got a full window. It's
Wow.
wild.
That's funny. They gave you a way out.
Well, before he had a door, now they've moved him away from the door, so they're trying to keep him in now. He had a door to the exterior before.
Yeah. So yeah, so this is Civil Chat. It's your chance to ask questions. We will do our best to answer them. No guarantees we give you the right answer, but we will do our best. Um, Make sure you ask questions. If you have a question, make sure to put it in the Q&A panel. If you put it in the chat, it might get missed. But the Q&A panel is really a great way for us to manage and make sure that we've got everything covered, so to speak. But yeah, feel free to use the chat. I hate going to webinars where the chat is disabled. It's just boring.
Agreed.
All right.
Or they tell you to put your Q&A in the chat as well, and so now you got chat intermixed with Q&A and half the questions get missed.
All right. So we got a couple of folks from Denver, Justin and Nathan. Nice. Yeah, from Colorado. We're supposed to get some snow this week, finally. Looking forward to it.
You think we're actually going to get it?
I don't know. It sounds likely, but you never know. Whether people always make it out to be worse than it's going to be. That way, if they're wrong, then it's better and people like it. It's like,
Yep.
oh, yes, it's not as bad. All right. Let's see. I'm going to talk about raster design today. At least that's what I'm going to start off with. I always
Well,
like to
wait,
throw
you,
out
you
some of
forgot the
this.
main introduction that if you guys do have questions,
Ah, yes.
put them in the question and answer pod, please, not in the chat. Give us tell us what you want to tell us currently in the chat. That's great. We love getting heckled, everything like that. But please do put the questions in the Q&A pod. It's easier for the team to go through and find them over there than in the chat.
Yep, for sure. And this is the show is up to you guys. So if you ask questions, we will answer them. If not, we'll talk about snow or 3D printing Legos or
The best thing ever.
whatever is on our minds. So I ran across a situation recently. I had somebody reach out to me saying, "Oh yeah, the one of our staff members had this PDF. They took an image, made a PDF, overlaid it into the drawing, and we're trying to convert it to vector line work." Now, this was a scanned document from like 1920 or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, AutoCAD doesn't have that ability. He's like, yeah, we figured that out. And so he spent about 5 hours tracing the lines in CAD. I'm like, why didn't he reach out to me? We have raster design. So I wanted to talk a little bit about raster design. If you're not familiar with raster design, it's raster tools in CAD. So let me go ahead and insert an image here. Now, this sort of thing you might not have to do as often nowadays as we used to do in the past, but it's still good to understand the capabilities here. So let's see, this was under my downloads. There we go. So I downloaded an image from Google. It's a contour map, and I need to get these contours into CAD somehow. Now I could come in here and I could pick along the lines, but man, that's a lot of work. And so what we can do is we can use raster design to help us with that process. Now, this is not a magic take this and extract all the contours command. This is a let me help you do this tedious task command. All right. So in order to do this, if you'll notice up here, we have um, this followers. So we have polyline followers and contour followers. And basically what you do is if you pick on a line within an image, it will do its best to follow along that line. But we need to massage the image first. So it needs to be black and white, and it needs to be set up so that it can identify the contours. So if I simply, so with raster design has the ability to edit raster images, and you have to be careful with that because when you do things in raster design, it can actually save those changes to the image that's attached. Right. So if I simply come in here and I say, hey, I want to see which one was it, change the color depth and make it bitonal, so it's black and white, you'll notice we lose a lot of detail in here. Right. There's a bunch of contours in here that we just don't see anymore. But in order for this process to work, it has to be black and white. So we kind of got to do some massaging of this image first. So the first thing I'm going to do, I think, what was it? I did the convol, this one? No, not that one. I changed it to grayscale, I believe is what I did. And then do this one? Yeah, this one. So this one was interesting. So I came down here and I did this convolve. I have no idea what convolve means, but we're going to use that one.
I'm Googling that right now.
And there's all these enhancements, and I just kind of played around. I think I did one of these, and then if you run the filter, you can see how it like makes these stand out even more. So let me go ahead and undo that. So I'll kind of zoom in on this area here. And then I will do that convolve, this high pass filter one, run the filter, and you can see it just makes those contours pop a little bit better.
So just
Once
so you
I've
know,
done that,
convolve is to roll or coil together or entwine.
makes total sense.
That's all I got for you.
So once I get this a little bit more more contrast here, I can then make this into a bitonal image, and you can see we now have much more detail on those contours. And I could probably fiddle around with this to get even more detail, but this was really a tough image to do this on. Now, when I do the following, it's following along the white pixels, not the black pixels. So before I do this, I have to invert the image, and I believe that's under touch up. No, under cleanup. No. Yes, I still want to cancel. We can then invert the image, and now I have the pixels that represent the contours. Now, again, this is not a, do it for me type of a thing, but now I've got some information that the computer itself can possibly follow. And so now that I've done this, I can come up here to my followers. Now I've got two options. I could do a polyline follower or a contour follower. Really, the difference between them is the contour follower allows you to specify an elevation and then an increment. So I follow this contour, and then when I click on the next one, it's going to be at the next increment, and it'll follow that one. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to do a polyline follower. Basically, what you do is you specify a point to follow. So I want to follow this line right here. So I'm just going to click there. And you can see it went just a little bit because it didn't know what to do in this area here. So I'm going to come pick over on the other side, and then I'm going to do O for continue. So if you notice down here at the command line, O for continue. So I do O for continue, and then it tries to follow. But it thought it went up there. So that didn't work. So I'm going to roll back. So we'll do the R for rollback to there, and then we'll kind of get it going along that way. And then again, we'll do O for continue, and you can see it follows along until it gets to here, and then it jumped over to the wrong contour. So again, I'm going to roll back to here, get it going along the right one, and then continue. And you can see it continued along until it got to an area where it didn't know what was happening. So I'm just going to say, hey, that's where I want to end this contour. I'm going to go and hit enter to say I'm done, right? And you can see when I end the command, it actually edits that image and removes those pixels out that it used to create that polygon. And so this can be a much faster way of digitizing an image to, get that line work out of an image and into CAD is using raster design and these tools. So I'm kind of curious, has anybody used raster design before? Are you familiar with it? Are you using it? It is part of the AEC collection. So if you have the collection, you do have access to raster design.
I've only ever tried using it off of a scan, not like a JPEG contour with all the colors and stuff. So that was
Yeah,
very interesting. Usually it's, some old, like you said, 1920s document somebody scanned, so it's already black and white.
right. Yeah, in that case, it's a lot easier. But I thought this was a good example to show that I've got this really convoluted, messed up, very um it's not black and white. It's
Right.
a color image that has all sorts of gradients to it. So
No, that was a great example to know you could even do that. You did have one question come up while you were doing that. Is there a way to make the background of the image transparent using raster design?
I don't know. Let's see if this is transparent. So if I draw a line through here and then I send that to the back. Let's make this red.
Robert put something up there that says despeckle.
So you can see when it's bitonal, the white, which is a pixel, is covering what's below it, but the black is not. So the black, when it's bitonal, it is transparent, so to speak. But I don't know of a way to just make it transparent. If I had an image and I need to make a part of it transparent, I'd probably take it into an imaging editing software. There's some free ones online. I use Pixlr online. It allows you to save like 3 or 4 images at a time, and then you have to wait a certain amount of time, and then you can save some more. Or you can subscribe to them, and then you get that limit removed. But that's what I typically use. I don't do a whole lot of image editing, but that's the idea.
I use my Snagit photo editor because you can just literally paint bucket the background and be done with it.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought this was a good thing to do. So that was kind of what I wanted to show off today. But then I also I was kind of curious. We're having a discussion here. We've got some folks that don't like STB files. They're like, oh, why do we have to switch to STB? We've been using CTBs just fine for a while, and why can't we just continue to use that? So I thought I would ask y'all. It's like, what do you use? Do you use STBs? Do you use CTBs? Do you not care? I don't
I
know. Is
don't
there a way to
care.
create a poll or something? You don't
I
care,
don't
Brian?
care. You see what people
Hey,
put in the
here's a
chat. We're
poll.
good.
Let's see that. I'm gonna create a poll here. Let's see. Untitled question. I'll go STB or CTB.
Actually, one of the questions I would like to amend to that is who has used CTB first and then went to STB and the feelings on that versus those that are just kind of thrown into STB. Because yeah, I was a 30-year user of CTB and then went to STB. And I was for certain I got an STD.
Apparently, I did not save it. Let's see. STB versus CTB. First one will be.
Hey, I'm back from the old DOS-based days. You've only had CTBs. This whole STB thing is foreign to me.
Not practicing safe CAD. That's correct. That's exactly what it was.
That was good, Thomas.
All right. Let's see. How do I show this poll? Watch.
CTBs is better for Civil 3D callouts, in my opinion. And CTB is better when using XREFs, is a couple of the comments that came up.
I mean, I can
And Robert
definitely
says STB, that stands for solo table based, right? And CTB is company table based?
I mean, the nice thing is it's come a long ways, and you can start using both almost ambidextrally, so to speak.
Yeah.
But yeah, we We went with STB because it works with MicroStation a little bit better in the fact that MicroStation has levels, and those levels are all contained by line weights, not controlled by color. So depending on that. So yeah, just like Brandon was saying, there's a lot of pros and a lot of cons on how it works. What I love about it is I don't need to develop a new CTB if I want to make certain things color in my drawing. I can just change the plot style to normal and then change it to whatever color I want. And
Right.
there you go. Yeah.
Tom says he can go both ways.
Yeah.
I paraphrased after Brian's STB comment.
All right. So there's the results there. Did it show up on everybody's screen? I said just show
I got
yours.
it.
I got
Okay,
it.
cool. So it's interesting. Only about a quarter of folks are using STB, another 15% don't care, and vast majority of folks are using CTB. So for those of you that are using CTBs, I'm curious, kind of to what Brian was asking earlier. Have you tried STB yet? So this is the question for those that chose CTB. So just if you could put it in the chat, yes, I've tried it, or no, I haven't tried it.
So I do also want to put one thing why people are typing that in the chat is I posted to Brian Haley an article, I don't know, a month ago, right after Civil Chat, that the what was it? The which agency is switching to Autodesk Civil 3D from MicroStation?
Oh yeah, the Army Corps of Engineers.
Yeah, Army Corps of Engineers is making the Autodesk Civil 3D their new standard. So Thomas E said that, it works better with MicroStation. Well, the Army Corps of Engineers gets rid of MicroStation. Some people might.
Yeah. Silent victory.
Okay, well, awesome. Well, I thank you everybody for helping me on this learning path. It looks like the majority of those who, yes, I have STB, still prefer CTB. Okay, so
So
there's a few that are still diehard CTB fans,
So somebody did
even though
ask a
they've tried
question
both.
of what is the difference? What's exactly the difference between the two?
That's a good point. Is anybody other than Mr. Mackey here not know what the difference between CTB and STB is? Because I can go over that.
I vaguely know what the difference is. It's color-based versus style-based. So the color
I have a
tells you the
vague
line
idea.
weight.
Okay, Brian. Well, so Brian put in the chat, I have a vague idea. So let me go over it real quick. So if you go into, let me create a new drawing here, and I'm going to use our template. So this is the GEI template. So I'm going to draw a polyline here. All right, this polyline is currently on layer 0. So let me just put it on a different layer. Let me put it on this layer here. Let me change my workspace. There we go. That's better. Now we can see what layer it's on. All right, so this is on this particular layer. So if I go into my layer properties manager and I find that layer, whichever one it was, here, I'll just do a layer ISO. Make it easier to find. There we go. So this particular polyline is on this layer. And what you'll notice is there's a new property for your layers called plot style. All right, so this is on the plot style that's named Des Black Anno. So design black annotation. That's what this is intended for. All right, and this particular plot style is set up to plot a specific way. And so when I plot this drawing, it doesn't plot it based off of the color of the line. It does it based off of this property that's called plot style. Now, this is a property just like any other property, line weight, line type, transparency, color, that it's just another property. So if I were to come into my properties, just the regular old AutoCAD properties, you can see I have a plot style. Right now it's set to by layer. So whatever the layer it's on, whatever plot style is assigned to the layer it's on, that's the plot style that's assigned to this object. But I can override it just like I can with anything else. I can override the color or the line type. I don't recommend you do this, but you can. Right? And so if I need this to plot in color, we have one plot style in here called 100% color object. And so this will plot that line based off of the color. So if I copy this a few times, and I need just this line to plot in color, I can change the plot style of it to 100% color object. Now, if you're, these are GEI specific plot styles, but when I plot this, I'll just do a preview here real quick. Let's see, plot single sheet. UWG to PDF. Apply that, and then I'll preview that. You can see just that one line is plotting yellow. I shouldn't have chosen yellow. It's hard to see on the screen, but you can see it's plotting yellow. All right, they're all still the same color. And what I can do is I can come in here and I can change this one. Maybe I need this line to plot thick. So I'll change its plot style to 55. And I'll change this plot one to plot thin. So 0.8.
Now, mind you, as
Again,
Brian's doing this, these can be on their own layers, and you can control this by a by layer property as
yes,
well.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes, you can.
yeah, that and I
And
think
that's the way you should do it.
Yes, thank you, Brian.
That's the way you should do it. I'm just doing this as an example of what
Yeah,
plot
yeah.
styles are.
He said this is not something I recommend to do. I'm just demonstrating.
Right? And so you can see they're not plotting based off of the color, they're plotting based off of the style. And this way you can have things that are the same color that are plotting differently. And that's one of the drawbacks to making the conversion. I'm used to seeing all my lines that are green plot a specific way, and now they don't necessarily plot that way. So that's something to keep in mind as you're doing this.
That was
And there was a comment in the chat, basically it's a really good comment too, that since more people are wanting colorized deliverables, if you're using a color table, it's going to print in that color. But here you can use whatever color you want for your layer and have it print in the plot style color.
absolutely. And that was the biggest complaint we had and one engineer paraphrased, the drafter or user loses all language on screen. I don't know how that's going to plot just by visually seeing it. And that's the biggest problem that we've had. But when you get used to it, it then becomes something completely different and it kind of circumvents its way out. Sorry, Brian, I just wanted to add that.
No, you're good. So I'm going to put these on a different layer. Right. So in our system, these are now on survey layers. Let me change these all back to by layer. All right. So when I plot these, right, you can see they're plotting gray because they're existing stuff, right? And that's the way that particular plot style is set up to plot. However, if I was so these are on this layer VTopo Comp Major, right? So but if I was the surveyor creating a drawing, I don't want my survey stuff to be grayed back because it's like the point of the drawing. And so the way we have things set up here at GEI is we have two different types of plot styles. So we have GEI design, right? Full size, and then we have GEI survey mapping. And this actually should be, right? So I'll go ahead. And when I preview this now, you can see these are now black. And so we have two different plot style tables that are using the same name that plot differently based off of what the intended outcome of the plotting is. So that's kind of an overview of CTB versus STB. Are there any questions that came up on that, Brian?
One question somewhat related. Somebody said, wait, how did you go DWG to PDF? I thought that was discontinued.
Oh, DWG to PDF, that's our primary, that is Autodesk's print driver, and that I don't see that going
just
away.
keep moving them forward every year. We have our own.
Yeah.
So yeah, just.
Yep, that's out of the box CAD. And I highly recommend using that one. So that way, if anything goes wrong, you get to have Autodesk say, hey, it's your driver, not my Bluebeam or my Adobe driver. It's their AutoCAD driver.
Yeah. And we just have them under this plotters folder. This is where we keep all of our PC3 files. And so I just keep moving these forward each year. So. So I don't know.
And then Paul also said, also remember that you can set the layout to be WYSIWYG to answer your question of the designers don't know how it's going to print.
Right,
Absolutely.
right. So let me go ahead and do that real quick. So let me bring in a layout tab.
And while Brian's doing that, we just had it where so some people like to work in that environment and some people don't like to work in that environment. I was able to find a Lisp on online that enables people to swap back and forth between this really easily, Brian. So
Oh, nice.
yeah, because otherwise you got to
So
go through here and do what you're doing.
yeah, so you have to go through the page setup. I'm gonna go ahead and modify the page setup here. And then there's this option to display plot styles. So if I toggle that on, it now displays the way it's, do I have to turn the light on?
Yeah, you'll have to turn that on.
Yeah. So now it displays the way it's going to plot. So you can see as I zoom in, I actually get to see the thickness. And everything's black and white. But yeah, so you can enable it.
And then another question, follow-up question on this, talking about plotting. Are you still using non-TTF fonts?
Uh, was that
No. No, I have not used any fonts except for TTF. So for those that don't know, TTF is True Type fonts. So I guess saying, are you still using non-TTF fonts? That'd be saying, are you still using non-True Type fonts?
like
Is that like an
.shx,
ETM
right?
machine or a
Yeah.
Vim model? I don't know. But no, no, everything that we do, all of our plot styles. So if I go into my text styles here, they're all True
Yeah.
Type fonts. I think there might be like the standard might still be
Yeah.
the base AutoCAD one, but we don't ever use the standard textile. All of our GEI ones are Arial. That's
We're
all
along
we
this
use is Arial.
we're along the same line, so you don't have to worry about transitioning the fonts or the shape files being lost. It's
Nope.
within Windows, so there it is. And we try not to add anything that's not window out of the box.
Agreed. Mhm.
Yeah.
See, I used to say that, Thomasy, and then I realized that half the fonts that you get from Windows aren't Windows. They're actually Microsoft Office fonts. Because I had a client who's using a Mac, and on the Mac, like, I don't have that font. I'm like, that's a standard Windows font. It's like, oh, no, that's a standard Office font.
Spot.
So you might want to reword that to say a non-standard Microsoft font.
Okay, that's a good point. I did not think of that because I thought Office was part of Windows.
No, so like a lot of people are using, all their like whatever Apple documents for
Mm.
equivalent for Excel, Word, etc. They still use those programs, so they
Well,
never purchased the Office 365
gotcha.
now, and they had none of the fonts. I'm like, holy crap, Windows only comes with like 15 fonts.
Yeah. Well, we're pretty simplified as well. Arial is it. That's kind of where we're at with it. I mean, Army Corps, Arial, DoD, a lot of the agencies are base Arial. So, and I think that's Microsoft. God, I hope that's Microsoft font.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never not had an Office product installed, so because even when you're an if you're Microsoft and you want to go type in a font, you have to have Office for like Word to put a font in because Notepad isn't giving you font choice.
Good point.
Yeah, and then there also is sometimes I've seen people use open type fonts. So that's a TTF you're using. There is also an OTF type font, which looks like a standard Windows-based font, but that is not. So just be aware of that too. And a lot of like PDF printers, etc., do not like open type fonts either.
Well, and one of the big reasons is we didn't want we wanted our text to always be legible. And if it's a non-true type font and it's in .shx, then it's going to assume the line weight of whatever layer it's on, and that
Right.
can blot things. Where true type font will always be legible, and it can assume a gray value as well.
So I recall an issue with True Type fonts if they're at different elevations.
That has been rectified, but you are correct. It
Okay,
makes it slightly thicker than normal, but less than bold, and it really is horrible.
right. So
And that was mostly on the multi-leader. Whenever you're
is that what it
doing
was?
multi-leader and you snap to a line that had differentiating Z elevations, it would do that, and you couldn't change it. There was nothing you could do. And Autodesk's response is you need to move it from 0,0,0 to 0,0, 1 to the E49, and then back down to 0. That
But you
fix,
said they fixed that though.
yeah, I haven't seen it
Okay.
happen since
I
20.
haven't either, and that's why I didn't mention it before, but I just recalled that there was an issue with TrueType fonts at high elevations. So all right.
And I do want to point out one thing, since you just talked about had that been fixed this month in December, there has been an update for 23, 24, 25, and 26 of Civil. Also for all of the info work. So there has been service packs. I think there are more hot fixes than service packs for all of those. I just wanted to point that out that if you guys are paying attention, they came out on, most of them came out on December 16th. I think the one for 26 came out on like December 5th or something.
Yeah, 2.5 gig hot fix. Sorry, Brian.
I know they look like point releases, a point
Yeah,
release, so
I
it's a
know, man, but it's
3.7, but yeah, you're right. They're like 2 gigs. That's not a hot fix.
yeah, that's the size of the program practically.
The InfraWorks is 6 gigs. So the
Oh,
InfraWorks, they even say hotfix on InfraWorks. They're
Mm.
6 and 7 gigs depending on the year.
Yikes.
Kind of reminds me of way back in the day when I was just first got out of college on my own, needing internet. And it's like, yeah, it's a 3-minute download. Sweet. You go download it, it installs, and then it says, okay, now I have to download the rest. And it's like 3 hours.
Oh, hey, that's a really good comment there, Robert. The style composer. If Brian, if you were to bring up a style
Oh,
composer
yeah.
and you were to see simplex in there, it's so hard to read. But TrueType fonts are much easier to read in that area. I'm wondering if that's an Autodesk underhanded method of getting us to move over.
So
That's
he's referring to this piece
Yep.
here when you're editing it, right? If
Yep.
you're using a TrueType font, it's super easy to read. If you got it set to, I don't even know if I can change this here.
Oh, I bet you could. All big bucks, no whammies. Wow. Oh, I saw one.
There we go. I guess I have to change it there. Oh, it's text, right? There we go.
That's
Right, you
totally
can see how
legible.
difficult that is to read. There is a Windows settings you can change that will make this easier to see. I don't recall what it is off the top of my head. I
And
think I put something on my blog a decade
Yeah.
ago about that.
that also
Tom
may
also
be,
just said there is something a fix for that, but he doesn't remember.
Yeah.
when we looked into it, I
Graphics
the-
acceleration, that's what it is. Thanks.
Yeah.
No, it wasn't graphics acceleration. It
no,
was-
no, this was an actual
Yeah.
Windows setting, but we
Uh-huh.
IT had to get elevated privileges to the user to be able to make that modification, which I thought was really weird.
Yeah. So just use TrueType fonts. It's a lot easier. And it makes it easier when you take it to PDF.
Yeah, and I forget who made the comment on there basically saying that a TrueType font, since PDF viewers don't print it, if you're trying to do like a text search in a PDF or contractors are looking for things, they will not find it in the like Bluebeam won't find it because it's not text.
Yep.
Yeah.
And also, Bluebeam has abilities to label regions and your bookmarks utilizing your actual text that's in your title block, as long as it's a TrueType font.
Yep.
So there's a lot of advantages to using it.
Paul put it in the chat. It was ClearType. I don't know if we'll find it here. Just
ClearType.
ClearType text. Yeah, so you have to turn off the ClearType and then you go through this. Do you want to, this whole thing, just walk your way through it. And then it'll affect your fonts in Windows a little bit. It makes them slightly more difficult to read. But if you're doing a lot of work on labels and your company is standardized on the SHX fonts, it's worth it.
Windows 98. Bite your tongue.
All right, so we have 2 questions. We'll start with the
Awesome.
one from Lisa. Can you please walk through the grading process on a channel regrade for a culvert to bridge conversion?
So it's a bit vague on what you need, Lisa. I mean, that could be all sorts of different things. So I'm not sure what a culvert to bridge conversion is.
Meaning once you go into a bridge portion, they want to be able to see the surface like with the bridge, but do they want the culvert underneath? I mean, is it a do you want to show like, let's say you're showing a bridge over a railroad. It would almost similarly be the same where a railroad's going through a tunnel.
Or is it more like you have a river going through culverts with a road going over the culverts?
Probably that.
So you're replacing a culvert with a bridge. So basically, how do you handle the bridge abutments for the grading? Um, so let's see. See what we can do here. Let me open up a drawing.
Oh, I think there's multiple ways to do that too.
Oh, of course there is.
Yeah, yeah. Only because I know I like to grade the abutments. I like to grade the lower portion of the channel and then have the bridge as a separate entity by itself because I'm normally going to pass that off to structural anyways. And you can do a corridor for your bridge surface and then have another and just because you can't have a surface over top of the another surface within the same file.
No, let me do it different. Okay, this is going to be really obnoxious. So I've got a roadway design here. Let's see. Contours background. All right, and then I'm not displaying the surface, the existing ground here. Bit. All right, so that's the existing ground. So the red line is the existing ground, whereas the red line is the proposed ground. Got it. Okay, so I'm going to make a change here to this roadway design. On our profile, geometry editor, we'll delete some PIs just to make this a little bit easier. We'll throw a bridge in here. Insert a PI. Oops. Insert a PI like over here. All right, so this is where our bridge is going to be. I don't know if the corridor is set to rebuild. Probably isn't. So we'll go ahead and rebuild that real quick. So we've got a bridge coming through here. So basically my corridor works great, except for the grading on the outsides in here. So what we'll do, interesting. Fantastic looking existing ground. What? Okay, so that's ridiculous. Anyways, so what I would do is I would split my corridor. All right, split the region. So this is where the bridge is, one bridge abutment is, this is where the other bridge abutment is. And in this section in the middle here, we'll edit the targets for this section here. Go off surface, and then this will not be targeting any surface. All right. So we're not targeting surface here. We're not targeting surface here or here. Apparently it can't because there is no surface over here. But then I would just go through and do my grading. Now, so the question is what happens underneath the bridge, right? Are you trying to get surface under the bridge? Are you trying to get the surface with the bridge? Because a surface can't have multiple elevations. So I can't model the road and the ground underneath the road because that just can't happen. Right. And so basically what you're going to be doing is you're going to be doing feature lines. So I'm going to pretend like this is going to be a wing wall. So I'm going to draw, and I'm just doing this really sloppily here. All right. So here's my wing wall. It's got a thickness to it. It was really badly drawn. Yeah, what's going on here? Something like that. Selection cycling got turned on. I hate selection cycling. Can't remember what the hotkey is for selection cycling. Say? Doesn't say. All right. And then I would make this into a feature line. So we'll go home. Feature line, create feature line from objects. All right. Don't use the site. Don't use site one. Site one is evil. It's the default. So I'm going to create a new one here. I'll call this one the East. Abutment. I typically don't assign styles to my feature lines. I usually just use layers to control the display of them. So I'll put it on a specific layer. I'm going to erase the existing one. And then what I would do is I would simply assign the elevations to these feature lines based off of what the elevation needs to be. So this point needs to tie into the existing ground, and this point over here needs to tie into the existing ground as well. At the bottom of the abutment here, it's tying into the existing ground. At the top of the abutment, it's tying into whatever the roadway design is. And likewise here, we got the same situation. And then again, back here, they're just going to tie into the existing ground. So you can go through and edit these manually. I like to use the quick elevation edit command. I absolutely love this command, right? So when I click on a point, I can assign it an elevation. Now I want to get the elevation of this point from a surface. So down the command line, I can do S for surface. Now, what surface is it using? I don't know. So I'm going to do S for select surface. And then I can say, hey, I want it to use the existing ground. Right? And then it puts that value into my command line. I hit enter, and I've now assigned that elevation here. And then I can just do the same thing over here. So do S for surface. I already know the surface, and I can hit it. Do the same thing here, S for surface. And then over here, we don't have the surface, I'm assuming. So it's going to stay at 0. Oh, no, it must have picked up on the last elevation. And then up here at the top, I want to use a different surface. So again, I'll do S for surface, but this time I will select the other surface. Which surface am I going to choose? Well, I'm going to choose this surface here. So the corridor top. All right. And then I'll do the same thing for that point there. And so now I've got a feature line that's drawn in that I can then use to do my grading. And so this is the concept I would go through. You know, it's like you want to just make sure that you assign the elevations to your feature lines that represent the ground that you're dealing. I can then create a surface. And I'll just do this real quick. Let's see what style do I want. I'll use the borders and contours. Sure, why not? And then I can add this feature line as a break line. And there, apparently I missed an elevation somewhere. I haven't recorded some yet. No, that's right. One of these is at a bad elevation. This one here. So this point is at a bad elevation. So it must have been, I don't know why it's at a bad elevation. Maybe I just did it wrong. Yeah, so go surface, select surface. Should be the contour, no? There we go. I'll set this to rebuild automatic. There we go. There's something wrong, but that's the idea. I don't know why these are at the same elevations.
So Jeff asked, is it okay to use site one if you rename it?
So the problem I have with site one is it's the default name for the site. And so if you get into a drawing and you're creating something and it says, hey, do you want to put it on site 1? That's the default site. How do you know somebody else hasn't already been in the drawing and put something on site 1? That you don't want to interact with whatever it is you're creating. So no, I don't think it's okay to use site 1 if you rename it, because somebody else might have already used it. Right? So don't ever use site 1 because it's the default site and you don't want those site interactions. Create a new site for whatever it is you're doing. If you did use site 1, just make sure that there's nothing else on site 1 and then name it appropriately so nobody else will use it in the future. Accidentally use it.
And Adam's kind of made a comment. Why do you use object viewer instead of model viewer?
Force of habit.
Okay.
Object viewer is just, it's just right there. That's where I typically go. Model viewer is in the middle and I have to find it. So yeah, model viewer is definitely the way to go. It is a replacement to object viewer. It's just, muscle memory takes me to model viewer or object viewer. That's all.
Yeah, no, it's also because you're a longtime civil person before you had model viewer. So it's just habit to go there.
Yeah, it's just muscle memory. That's all.
Yep. And Paul asks, is there any drawbacks to using none for the site?
In this example, no, because all I have is one feature line. So there's nothing wrong with using not. So you're not using a none site. You're not using a site. I hope that made sense, right? So these lines are not being put into a site. So what are sites? Well, they're buckets where everything inside of the site interacts with everything else in the site.
Yeah.
If I don't put a feature line in a site, it doesn't interact with anything else as a site interaction.
Yeah.
Because this feature line isn't touching any other feature lines, it's fine. Now, if I had it where the top was one feature line and the bottom was a different feature line, then yes, I absolutely would want them to be in the same site. Because when this elevation changed, I want this elevation to change. So they need to be interacted. If they need to be interacted, they have to be in the same site.
Yeah. And most importantly, it's when they cross, if they're on different sites, they ignore each other.
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of like the key. I don't know how to better describe that, but yeah, it keeps them in their own buckets on who's going to interact with what, because
if you're doing grading, you're going to have more than one feature line and you're going to put them all in the same site, because I want, when this feature line changes, I want this feature line to change with.
Cool.
I can do my site spiel again if anybody's interested.
No, you got two more questions.
Okay, awesome.
And they actually go together, kind of. So the first question is, what is the best deployment strategy to roll out Civil 3D to 250 users across multiple offices? He specifically wrote 2026, but being that we're a few months away from 27, it could be that too.
Yeah. So Jason, I'm feeling your pain. My deployment has been for 2026 has been done for months. And I'm waiting on IT to do the deployment. Now, to our IT department's credit, they were trying out a new method for deploying the software. So they were trying to do through the company portal. So we have this company portal where you can give our users access to software and then they can deploy it when they want to. And so we spent a lot of time developing the 2026 deployment for that, and it failed. It was not working. So we're actually in the process of going back to a previous method of deploying it, which was Kaseya is the name of the software that our IT department uses. Kasya, I believe is how it's spelled. Kaseya, Kasaya. I don't know, there's lots of A's and Y's and K's. So that was what we used before. We've got a replacement for Kaseya. I don't remember what the name of it is, but they're moving on to something new. And so that's the method they're going to use. I don't get super involved with the technical deployment of the software. I've always left that up to the IT department because they know how to deploy software to computers. I don't know how to do that. I do all the setup. I create the deployments off the Autodesk website, and then I hand that off to them, and then they package that up in the way that they can deploy it to our users. Jason, if you want, I can reach out to me. We can chat about it. I can get you in contact with our IT department, or I can ask them more specifically what they're doing for you. So
One of my clients where the users have admin rights, they just let people download and install it from there because they're like, once we put our icon on their desktop, and that's what goes through all of your custom settings, that's, the deployment now any days is just pretty much the standard stuff. It's all of the custom shortcuts you do, the stuff you copy over, that really is the big thing when you get into it.
yeah.
So anymore, it's not as bad as the old ones where you had to customize all that in the deployment. Now it's like, oh, once you run the routines to change it when you open the program, that's the majority of it now anyway.
Yeah. And we're doing just a basic install. We're not doing any customization on the install itself. So when they install the program onto somebody's computer, it's just the install. We just instruct them to launch it using our shortcut, which uses our profile and runs our routine prior to launching it so that they know everything is synced up. But the deployment itself is just straight out of the box deployment. So you just need to get your IT department to, how do they deploy Bluebeam? How do they deploy Esri? How do they deploy anything else? Do it the same way with CAD.
Yeah.
Justin did have a comment on the self-deployment. He said that self-deployment is bittersweet. Some people use it, some people have to poke a lot. I totally agree with that. And the method, our company portal, which allows people to opt into the deployment, was going to be for a set amount of time. And then after that amount of time, it was going to get pushed to their systems. So this was more of a, hey, you get to choose when you want to install it. What's a good time for you to install it? Oh, you don't have any good times? Okay, we'll install it for you when you don't choose. But yeah, reach out, Jason. We can chat about it sometime.
And then Quinn had a almost follow-up question to that, but it was posted beforehand. When updating CAD versions, currently going to go from 23 to 26, do all users need to upgrade simultaneously, or can it be done in phases? And would you recommend going to 26 now or waiting a couple more months for 27?
Ooh, I've got a lot to say.
Okay, so let's deal with the first question first. I believe 23 and 26 are still compatible. The files haven't changed. There might be some new stuff in a 26 file that the 23 can't do. So like, for example, the drainage stuff. So if I come over here to the prospector, we have like, no, where is it?
Stormwater controls right there up above the pipe networks.
Yes, stormwater,
There it is.
ponds, underground storage, these types of things. So 23 won't have these, right? But whereas 26 will. So if you have somebody that's in 26 that is creating a pond in Civil 3D, you can still open up that drawing in 23. They just won't have access to the pond tools to do anything with that. So that's the big thing about doing it kind of over a time frame. But I don't see any issue, doing a rollout instead of just everybody has to, everybody shows up on Monday and has it.
And just for other background, we've got individuals all the way back on 2021 that are still working on projects with people that are on 2026.
Yeah.
So it's 100%. We've got back and forth on that. It's not that big of we haven't seen any issues at all.
Yeah. So yeah, like I said, Quinn, what I would recommend, if anything, I would do a test group. Make sure that when you roll it out to them, that it works, that you're not running into any issues, because you have the deployment issue, you have, your CAD standards issues, make sure they still work with the new version. And then once those users are happy, then you can roll it out to the rest of the company. And you can do it office by office, team by team, however you like to do it. I don't see any issues doing it that way. So I think Brian, Tomasio,
Have we heard any word on 27? Is 27 still going to be compatible, or are they going to a new format? Do you know?
It's still compatible as far as I know.
Just
I
curious.
know Tom put in a link to the forums.
Yeah. And I'll be honest, I normally wait until like the first service pack
Yeah.
to even look at the newer version, and that generally doesn't happen until like October. So,
See, I laugh, Brian, because there are people who always say that. Then I'm like, yeah, okay, it came out. And everybody's like, yeah, I still want to wait.
you know,
I remember Revit, I think it was 2009 when they were still shipping like discs or USB or whatever. By the time it got to you, it was outdated because they found a bug for like the first company who installed it. So I was like, cool, first service pack is out, people. Let's
yeah.
go, let's go, let's go. And they're like, yeah, no.
So Jason put in the chat, I think the new format will come in 2028. And Chris kind of second that, said he heard the same thing. So it looks like sounds like 27 will still be compatible. But I haven't played around with the beta at all yet. I'm sure the beta is out. I just haven't touched it.
I think it's
So-
more of the AI interaction, maybe.
Yeah. There was a follow-up to that saying, is that still allowed? I think they were talking about the comment before saying 2018 to 2026 is still compatible. Same company licensing. I mean, technically the Autodesk licensing says current +3. How critical are you guys on that? I'm just asking out of curiosity because I had one client got audited and Autodesk came and said, oh, cool, you're still using products that's from more than 3 years ago and you didn't ask for exception, so we're charging you.
Interesting. I didn't know that's how it worked. I just thought that they were not providing support, not necessarily licensing.
No, the licensing through the collection, if you're on a collection. Now, Brian, you work for a giant company, so your rules might be different.
Right.
But for us small Joes,
Sorry.
it's current +3. So literally when the day rolls out for 27, you can no longer use 23.
Oh, wow. Oh, and they are retiring Desktop Connector all the way up to version 16.8 by the end of at the end of that last year. So, and that's another reason also, if you're using ACC and you're going to be moving people forward, using the newer Desktop Connector works better and it's better interlaced with the newer versions of AutoCAD. 2023 to up above is probably better.
So as far as Quinn's second part of the question, recommend updating to 26 or waiting a few months to 27. So as Mr. Mackey had said, if as soon as 2027 comes available, technically, if you're still on 2023, you're not supposed to have that installed on your system anymore. So
You
that
also
for
will
what
not
it's
be able to
worth.
download it. So if you need to go back and find a download, they get rid of the downloads the day the new one comes out. So like if you're like, oh, well, as of, for us, it's usually April, beginning of April for Revit, usually mid-April for Civil 3D. The day it comes out, but I need to go get a 23 and put it for this new guy's computer. The download will be gone. So most of my clients keep using it. They don't upgrade all the projects right away, whatever, especially if it's getting close. But I was just curious what you guys do on that, the theory of that. I mean, obviously it's different for giant companies versus small onesie twosie companies.
Right.
So I was just curious.
So one thing I would recommend, if you're the person in your company that is doing the deployments and creating the deployments and setting up your system, basically you're the CAD manager. When you're upgrading from a previous version to the next version, write down everything that you're doing to get your current version to work with your standards as they do in the old version. And that way, when the next version comes out, you've already got that documented and you can just go through it rather than like, okay, now what do I need to do again? Right? So I created a notepad. Let me pull this over to this monitor. There we go. And I just have the steps. Upgrade to new version of Civil 3D. The first thing I do is I copy the CAD support folder on the B drive and rename it to the current year. And then I do this, then I do this. And so these are the steps that I go through when a new version comes out. And this way, and then when I'm going through this process, I'm like, oh, that wasn't in my list. I add it to the list. So the next time, it's even easier. So just, if you're the one doing this, do something like this. It'll make your life a lot easier. All right.
I'm sorry, I have to
And
run
that
now.
is the bottom of the hour.
All right.
Perfect timing.
Thanks, Brian.
Oh, sorry guys, I got to run later.
See you, Brian.
Yeah.
Pleasure.
So yeah, this was a good one. I liked today's chat.
And just as a heads up, if
We
anybody
did
else
have
has
quite a few
heard,
people show up a little bit late, so we got a full crew
yeah,
now.
I'm
So.
glad to see that. I thought it was the fact that technically it expired last year.
Right. Yeah, me too.
Because I don't know if you remember the old Civil Chat. We did that with Civil Chat and Reverend Radio. It's like nobody showed up. Like, what's going on? Oh, we extended it. You had to go re-sign in to re-register. Such a pain.
Yeah.
If anybody else has heard, there was a couple comments in there saying that ACC might start charging for storage coming up. I would be curious if anybody finds the link on that to bring it next month. He said he was unofficially told by a reseller, which is fine. I'm just curious because for me, literally, since I've had unlimited storage on ACC, I store everything on there. I store personal photos, everything. I'm like, I have unlimited storage and I'm my own company. I've been putting everything up there. So it'll be curious to know if that's actually true and I have to, start changing my thought process.
Yep. So. All right.
Right.
So yeah, I'll be posting this up on my YouTube channel if you ever want to come back and review this fantastic conversations. And we'll be back again next month, first Tuesday of the month. We'll see you all then.
All
Take
right.
care,
Thanks,
everybody.
sir. Bye.